Another day has elapsed, another non-resolution of the Morgan Gibbs White transfer saga, a transfer saga that I'm guessing you are all as bored as I am about hearing about or talking about. Nothing resolved yesterday. Gibbs White did say, or there was the intimations that he wanted it resolved by Monday. Of course, he didn't go on the plane to the warm weather training yesterday. The story was out that his wife has had a difficult pregnancy, and that he has stayed behind to be with her for those personal reasons. So as I said yesterday, in yesterday's video, we wish them both the best of luck with that. I did reference the idea that maybe that it could possibly have been a smokescreen to some degree, because you can't help but think that the timing of the stories are convenient, not to suggest that there's not something wrong with obviously some stresses with the pregnancy, but with regards just the fact that he also didn't get on the plane at that particular time. Was there a resolution imminent? Well, look, another day has passed, and I think at this point, Tottenham Hotspur need to start looking at alternatives. And there is this one story regarding Conor Gallagher that keeps seemingly gets a little bit more noise, a little bit more heat. He would be an appropriate replacement. He's not a player that I particularly want. But then at the same time, I'll be honest with you, I have been honest with you, I think that Morgan Gibbs White is a player that, whilst I very much admire him, and I admire Conor Gallagher for what it's worth, and I think they both are better than what we have. They are both not hole fillers. They're not gap fillers for me. And we're allocating potentially a lot of money out of our precious transfer budget in areas where we already have relative strength and not filling areas that have relative weakness. And so opportunity costs are and must be a part of the consideration here. We're going to be talking about that just very briefly on Gibbs White, because I'm a bit bored of the conversation. We're going to move on to Conor Gallagher, a little bit more detail there. And then after that, we have to talk about what's come out in the news regarding Heung Min's son and his potential unhappiness at Tottenham, and the story around his happiness to leave the club after the Europa League final that seemingly now seems to have dissipated, and he's happy to stay. But either way, he will be going to the Korean tour, the gaming career, because the absence of his presence, or his absence there, would be a real kicker for Tottenham's financial compensation for the trip. And so it makes a lot of sense for him to be there. It could also be almost like a testimonial for him, if you like, before he was to then be moved on to somewhere where he can have a sort of final swan song, a new project, rather than beginning one at Tottenham. And if so, what does that look like for Tottenham's pursuit of a left-wing forward to mix it up with Mathys Tel? Also, what about Richarlison? Well, there are 4 names that are lurking around again today, all of whom, however, are at the risk of being a fallen domino if this Morgan Gibbs White saga doesn't resolve itself very soon. Even though you'd think that there's no overlap between the two positions, there is and there are, because obviously every second that's going past where you have money allocated potentially but not yet confirmed into one area is an opportunity cost. And before I come into what Fabrizio Romano had to say on the topic, guys, please do smash the like button for me on the video. If you enjoy these updates, hit the subscribe. If you haven't already, hit the notification bell and drop a comment. I really do hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things that you love with those you love to do them with. And guys, I want to say a massive thank you for all of the support you've shown the channel this summer. It's been insane. The growth has been crazy. The like game has been super strong as always. And just wanted to say I really do appreciate it. Before we go any further, just quickly, on Thursday night, so 48 hours time, 8 p.m. UK time, the debut show, the premiere show of the Spurs 5 is starting. Myself, Sava, Johnny H, Lubo, and Stelios Tritios, we're getting together. We started a new channel, and it's over on youtube.com/@thespurs5. I'll put the link in the description. Please do get over there, hit the subscribe, and make sure you tune in on Thursday at 8 p.m. UK time. It should be a wild debut premiere show. We're looking forward to it. But let's get on with the story, guys. So Morgan Gibbs White, obviously yesterday we knew that he wasn't going to be moving going to Portugal with regards to the warm weather training. There was the suggestion from myself that maybe the story that with regards to his wife's pregnancy, and obviously there's a lot of truth to that. Obviously, I wasn't suggesting that there was that it was a smokescreen, i.e., like a fallacy or a disingenuous take. Of course, we wish them both incredibly well with that pursuit, but the timing of it. The timing of it is inconvenient or convenient, however you would like to see it. And so, it obviously makes you pause for thought around Is there another sort of motivation for him not to be there? At the same time, look, Nottingham Forest made Morgan Gibbs White play in the preseason fixture on Saturday. He didn't really cut a happy, content figure on the pitch. And I'll come back to this notion that if Tottenham don't feel like they've done anything wrong, then why are we okay with him being allowed to play when we've triggered the clause in the contract? I know that, sort of triggering your own legal actions and taking it to the Premier League may end up actually delaying the transfer any further. But if Nottingham Forest are not willing to budge, not willing to answer the phone, not willing to communicate, and we are not prepared to make the complaint official and formal, then we're stuck in limbo. And to me, it's a massive waste of time, resources, energy. And as I say, everywhere else, dominoes are falling in for people, for players that I think that Tottenham Hotspur should be looking for. Morgan Gibbs White obviously is a player, like I said, I think he's a very good player, very happy if he signs for us. But I think that it's like having a living room where you're just replacing the furniture. You're replacing the couch with a nicer couch, but you still haven't got the TV installed. You still haven't got the table. And to me, I think that the left winger spot at Tottenham Hotspur in Sonny's absence is a massive, massive problem that we need to fix. And also, if Richarlison does leave as well, if there is truth to these Brazilian rumours and Palmeiras and Fluminense are both interested, again, if Daniel Levy is asking for £50 million for the player, I think it's ludicrous. And especially when we know from the other takes, the other stories that are going around, that Daniel Levy wouldn't pay £50 million or anything like that for a player of his age if he was buying the player. So how can you expect someone else to pay similar sorts of money? To me, it's ludicrous that Richarlison is put in the same ballpark as some of the other players that have gone for similar money, like a Kudus, like a João Pedro, like a Jamie Gittins, like any of these players that are potentially moving, a Vissa, for example. It's a wild take, and it doesn't surprise me, but it is always a little bit disappointing because he's also been amortized down on his contract to a relatively small sum. So I think most of us would probably be willing to take about £25 million. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section. But if Richarlison does leave, then we will see we do absolutely need a new forward, a versatile forward at that. And the four names that we've been linked with in and around the stories today, guys, is Alejandro Garnacho. Obviously, we know about him. I've spoken ad nauseum about his stats and why I think that he gets a bad rep because of his personality and the fact that he has, kicked up a little bit of trouble for a young guy. Look, all too frequently at Manchester United, at the biggest club in the world, you think you'd be happy to be playing the minutes that you get at the age that you have. But he's not. He wants more, and he wants to be used in a certain specific way. And so he certainly comes across a little bit temperamental. But his stats, at least on the Y Scout, when you filter things out that are necessary and relevant from a left winger, then they absolutely look fantastic. And you've seen me do this on a video a couple of weeks ago or last week, where I was filtering out all of the players, all of the players in that list of potential left wingers by looking at the higher ends of the performance metrics for all of the things that you need from a left winger. And Garnacho, Ademola Lookman, and Anthony Gordon were the three that were kind of ever present in those resulting filters. And so I'm a big fan of the player. I think that we should trust Thomas Frank, that if that was the guy that we were to look for, that he would have enough faith in himself and the coaching staff around him to get the best out of Alejandro Garnacho on the pitch and to get into his head and obviously try to make him a happy guy, because a happy version of Garnacho, a sort of disciplined and focused version of Garnacho, is going to be a really terrifying threat. Think about how scary Mohamed Kudus was on the right-hand side in the first half, or the second half, against Reading, versus someone like Sonny. Sonny sits on the wing. Brennan Johnson sits on the wing. A lot of the time, they have to wait for the ball to come to them. And then ultimately, you've got one guy that tries his best to take the players on like he used to, but doesn't quite have that confidence and has lost that half a yard of pace. And on the right-hand side, at least we saw a slightly different version of him against Reading. But generally speaking, Brennan Johnson isn't going to be the guy that takes you on. He's the guy that needs to have the ball put over the top into the channel. And so with Kudus as that option off the right, and he can come deep, pick the ball up and just drive and terrify players. If you could have someone on the left-hand side that can do that as well, then with Mathys Tel as the other option, the alternate option over there, and with Brennan Johnson on the right-hand side, the amount of variables, the amount of partnerships, the amount of options and iterations of our forward line will be absolutely scary and unpredictable. And as I always said, unpredictability is the second best ability in my book, right? So would be absolutely sensational. And Garnacho, for me, is the guy that, of the four, that I think that there comes the most risk, right? So I'm going to show you on the screen just quickly his stats. As I say, Garnacho, if I just scroll through here, you're going to see a lot of red bars and a few green bars. But actually, it's the green bars that are the most relevant ones. I won't spend too long on this, but all of the things you need: someone who can press from the front, someone who can take players on, attacking, touches in the opponent's final third, touches in the penalty area, dribbles, take-ons. All of these things are just right up there. So you can kind of ignore a lot of the red bars because they're just not that relevant to someone like him. But he really is a special player. And I think that if Tottenham were to look in that direction, I don't believe there will be a resolution for Garnacho until late in the window. Of the four names I'm about to show to you, he's probably the least likely to have his future resolved, whilst we are still waiting to figure out what's happening with Sonny after the Korea tour, and obviously Richarlison as well. So I think this one will be around to figure out later on if need be. In the meantime, though, as I said to you a minute ago, the other kind of option here is an Ademola Lookman that can play as a striker or can play as a winger as well, an attacking midfielder. And for me, Lookman on Y-Scout and on the FB refs, the stats and the kind of eye test of the everything reels that you can look at Y-Scout are just out of this world. Non-penalty goals, 98th percentile, 0.63, so 6.5, 6 goals every 10 games. Shots total, 95 percentile, the 3.5 shots every single game. Progressive carries, 5.71, 94th percentile. Touches in the attacking penalty area, 98th percentile. Progressive passes received, 12.88, 95th percentile. For me, I mean, I won't bore you guys, but look, you can see goals plus assists, right? 8.5. So for every 10 games, he's getting 8 or 9 goals or assists, which is in the 94th percentile relative to all other attacking midfielders and wingers. And even when you're comparing him to other strikers, as you can see, I've flicked across here to the other tab, the numbers come down a little bit because some of the time he's playing off on the left or on the right or through the middle as a 10. Other times he's playing as a forward. So when you have that kind of split versatility, then obviously you're being compared against people that just play in the same role all the time. So sometimes the numbers can be skewed unevenly or unfairly. But the guy is just an absolute baller as a passer, 99th percentile for basically everything. His defensive work is actually pretty handy as well. If you look at this, I mean, he can get back and he can attack from the front, but he's a strong guy. He's played in England. He's Prem proven. He's played at 3 clubs. I think it was Everton. Was it Everton, Leicester, and somewhere else? Charlton, maybe? I forget the third team he played for. For me, Ademola Lookman would be my number one choice. The only problem is that Lookman is sought after by a lot of other clubs. And this is where I come to you with this notion of opportunity cost. Hanging around trying to figure out the Gibbs White situation when you have potentially a Conor Gallagher. I know most of you can tell from the previous comments, most of you aren't really interested in him. I'm not really interested in him. I don't even think either of them are necessarily a position we need to really focus on. Said it 1,000 times. A 6, a left winger now, and a striker and a left back are far more important to me than just improving on an 8 that we already have fairly decent cover in. I still make the point that Gibbs White and Conor Gallagher are better than what we have, but it's the time delay, it's the budget absorption, and it's the opportunity cost of time because other dominoes are falling, and Lookman won't be around for long. And for me, he is the best. However, there is another option out here, and this guy, we were linked with him a month or so ago, and we slept on it a little bit. Lyon, I think, Daniel Levy was looking at Lyon thinking they were going down to Ligue 2, and that because of John Textor's relationship and the kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, all of that FFP stuff and PSR stuff we've spoken about 100 times. Well, we thought that maybe there was going to be a Mikhail Tadzi that was available. And if he's still available, which he is, I'd love to see it. We talked about Thiago Almada, who was actually on loan from Botafogo. He ended up going to Atletico Madrid. And maybe with him, a few others might go as well. But Malick Fofana is the left winger that he's a tiny little guy. Think about Podence for Wolves. He's this sort of size. He's about 5'5". But he is an absolute terrifying guy to see with the ball at his feet. He's the sort of guy that will come through. He can sit on the left wing if he wants to and just wait for it. If you get the ball to him, he'll just turn and go at you. And he's so quick. He's got that low center of gravity. And he's scary, guys. He's really scary. Just want to show you this. He's obviously not he can't double up and be a Richarlison replacement at the same time like a Lookman can or like others can that we're talking about. A guy called Evann Guessand in a second as well. But For me, it's just look at this: a goal and assist. This is just for a winger, right? Just for an out-and-out left winger. 80th percentile, 7 times out of 10 in a 40-game season, 45-game season. You might be looking at this guy. If he played every minute, you might be looking at this guy getting about 30 GA in the Premier League if he can transfer those skill sets. And I promise you, I did this on the Y Scout, but I've seen it as well. There's a YouTube highlights reel. Just go and take a look at the highlights reel with him dribbling, because his dribbling everything reel is very similar to the highlight reel. There's very few mistakes in there. He's just incredibly fast, talented, and can sort of whip in and whip out, like a little bit like an Aaron Lennon, but probably with clever, more clever feet. If I'm entirely honest, his finishing is, and his sort of fine touches, his finessing is super impressive for a guy of his age. He's only just turned 20. He's 20 years old and 113 days old. His wages is on tiny wages. He's a young guy. He's not doing much. And the only problem is that, Leon, John Textor, not an easy guy to work with when it comes to these negotiations, I don't think. But for me, he's someone that Tottenham should look at. Unfortunately, at the moment, because we've slept on him, and now that Leon are back up into Ligue 1, we might have moved into a different direction, which is a little bit silly because you snooze, you lose. Liverpool are now looking at Malick Fofana, not necessarily as a backup in case they don't get someone else. Like they've got Ekitike coming in. They're also looking at Rodrigo. I personally would like to think that Malick Fofana is about 4th or 5th on the list of potential wingers that could go anywhere this summer. Arsenal are also looking at him as well. He's not the same sort of player as like an Eberechi Eze that can come in and play the 10. This guy is just a guy that can sit on the left and do everything that Sonny used to be able to do. But he's 20 years old. And for me, if that's the sort of caliber, if that's the sort of profile of player that we're looking for, I would be all over it, guys. Let me know your thoughts on Malick Fofana. And the last one, guys, that I want to bring to your attention is Evann Guessand, a player that we've spoken about as well quite a lot on this channel. 24 years old. He plays for Nice. And again, this is someone that can do everything from the attacking midfielder, the 10 role, the wingers left or right, and is also a forward. Now, defensively, as I say, you can. I'm not sure if you're seeing this on the screen. I hope you are. Yes, you are. He's someone that, again, when you pivot between the two categories, you see different versions, right? Compared to forwards, a lot of the stuff that he's doing is his ball at the feet work, right? He loves to get a hold of the ball and just sort of drive into the 18-yard box, on the edge of the 18-yard box, two-footed, can smash the ball from distance with his left or his right. A very, very interesting player, someone that I think has got a huge amount of potential. He's 6'1", so he's not a small lad. He's quite bulky as well. Well, not, I wouldn't say he's bulky, but he's strong in the challenge. He's probably actually quite slight a frame, if I'm entirely honest, thinking about it. But he sort of bounces off players and is quite happy to sort of muscle in and get stuck in. Again, the goals to shot ratios, 89th percentile, like 44.4% shot on target ratio. Not bad, around the 90% mark. I'm a big fan of Evann Guessand. And I think that if Tottenham only had space for one more forward, because remember how many forwards we have, if you're trying to find space to keep players like Micky Moore around, if you want to keep and have a look at someone like a Solomon as well, bear in mind all the others. We've got Decky, we've got James Maddison that are currently injured. We've got Odebear that haven't seen as many minutes as we'd like to see. If you're going to find room by letting go of, say, Sonny and Richarlison, but you only want to bring in one player to make the numbers work for the squad perspective, then Evann Guessand might be the guy, and he is less in demand than Ademola Lookman. Ademola Lookman, for me, is a player that I'm just showing you stats again on the screen here. It's just insane. And if you go and take a look at him on the Y Scout, or I'm sure on YouTube as well, you'll see the reasons why I think that he would be a perfect accompaniment. Kudus on the right, Lookman to play off the left at times, or in the 10, or they can swap. They can do a bit of inversion because they both can do both sides, right? I know that Kudus prefers to play on the right-hand side, but his actual best output for West Ham last year was in the moments he played off the left-hand side. This guy as well, Lookman, can do a little bit of both. Two-footed, versatile, can invert or take players on, can shoot from distance, connect the dots, terrifying to be ran at, and also will press from the front, will win the ball back and work hard in the times when Tottenham are doing that high press, which we didn't see in the Reading game. So at times, I guess, depending on who you have in the midfield, who you have in the defence, if you have someone like a Vuskovic, are you going to be able to press from the front and have a super high line behind it in case the press doesn't work? These are all things that we'll have to iron out, but we have options, variety, versatility, and iterations of Tottenham with someone like him in the team, in the squad. So for me, my number one choice for Tottenham, if they do sell Sonny and if they do sell Richarlison and or both, then Ademola Lookman. But like I say, guys, that he is sought after by so many people. And it's like that story could be done before you know it. It could be done the next 2 or 3 days. And so Tottenham need to kind of shit or get off the pot here a little bit with regards to the Morgan Gibbs White thing, because even if you just say, we'll press pause on the Gibbs White, we'll go and get Ademola Lookman or someone like that, go and get the winger in, that kind of or the forward, that kind of makes it clear to Richarlison that, we need you to be thinking about, your next home, because you're not going to get as many minutes unless there's a horrendous injury crisis. By the way, I did forget to mention that Malick Fofana, the only question mark I have about him is he did miss 10 games last year through injury. I think he had a bad knee, a bad hip, and a bad ankle at one point, all at the same time. So he missed about sort of 25% of the season. So that's got to be baked into the consideration. But the rest of them, for me, any one of them, I'd be fine with Fofana. I'd be fine with Ademola. I'd be okay with Garnacho, even though I think he's probably fourth on my list. And Evann Guessand, for me, is a really interesting one as well. Let me know your thoughts. Just quickly, if the Gibbs White story does continue to percolate, then it could be trouble and curtains on that idea. And lastly, guys, I will say that the Conor Gallagher story, for me, is one to avoid. I just don't think that we need him either, as much as he doesn't want to be at Tottenham. I don't think Tottenham should want him. And last thing I'll say, guys, is the story regarding centre-backs just goes on and on and on, doesn't it? It looks to me like there has to be more to this story than meets the eye, because I can't understand why it is that Zabarnyi would be so heavily linked to Tottenham right now, and Tottenham are willing to pay 61 million if Romero is staying. At the same time, all summer, we've been linked to Lukumi, we've been linked to Leone, we've been linked to Scalvini, we've been linked to De Winter, we've been linked to about sort of 2 or 3 others as well. And I'd just be very, very surprised to see Tottenham go out and drop 30, 40, 50 million quid on any of these types of players, unless there is an absolute need for it in the back line. And the only way there's a major need for it, in my opinion, is if Romero is off. The left-sided sort of backup option to Micky van der Ven could be a problem, and that could be solved with going after someone who can do a little bit of both. Someone, like a David Hansko would have been a perfect fit for me. Pierre Hincapié could also be the option, but we haven't really seen a link to them. Hansko's already gone. Hincapié, I think, is staying where he is. Anyway, guys, that's it. Just let me know your thoughts on whether or not you think that there's an opportunity cost here for this Morgan Gibbs White drama to carry on and on and on. Best of luck to him and his wife in the pregnancy. I hope that goes well. But please, Tottenham, figure out a way to get this sort of story moved on, because it's boring now. And I think the shine of the transfer, the idea of the transfer is starting to sort of wear off a little bit. I think most people are starting to wake up to the idea that it's not the perfect way to spend 60 million quid. If he is coming and he wants to come, then let's move it forward. Let's move it forward. Of course, the other consideration is maybe even Morgan Gibbs White is saying, look, right now, my priority is not Nottingham Forest, nor is it Tottenham Hotspur. My priority right now is my family. And if so, that could be a justifiable reason to not be seeing any movement. And at the same time, I won't say what I was going to say, but there might be scenarios in the not too distant future where we've missed out on other opportunities, and that will be a real kick in the teeth. So we've got to think a little bit more 4D here, I think, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. I'll see you later on for a live stream. And as always,